how could I move? But like you said, man, it's so much more than just that. Like, I just got into it because I was like, it's fun, and it was a different way of release. But it was, like you said, about the grind. It's really just about feeling better. Like, for me, it was just about feeling better about myself and, like, where I was at in my life because of what I've been through, and just wanted to feel good.
You brought a couple of those things up. When did you find weights, and kind of where were you in that process of, I guess, growing up? I think we all find it because we're looking for something.
100%. And just to feel, mine was just to feel better about myself and what I, like, who I am, and kind of just find myself in a sense. Like, I grew up without a father. My father took his life when I was 6. He hung himself. And I think at that point, I mean, looking back now, I know for sure it was this very, like, what? Like, this idea, like, before that, everything was like, you know, you fall, you scratch your knee, or you fall, you get hurt, or, you know, it's temporary. Everything is temporary. And that's how I felt before. And then as a kid, I'm like a 6, 7-year-old kid, I'm like, holy shit, this shit ends. You can swear on this, right?
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Okay, so fuck yeah, fuck.
Now we can.
Just kidding. No, so it got me to a point of just like, I really realized at a young age that, like, shit is temporary, and, like, death is permanent. Because you know, you talk to your mom and you're like, oh, so, like, you know, I'll see him next week and say bye.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, no, that's literally not what's gonna happen. You're like, oh, this is sorry.
Yeah.
You know, obviously with other words and with different sentiments, with a lot of tears.
Yeah.
And but I got to that point, and I just remember the rest of my life. I literally remember being a fucking little kid and sitting there thinking, like, thinking about what I think about, and, like, thinking about who I am, and, like, what do I want to do with my life, because I know that it ends, and I know that it's short. And, like, I remember being a kid and thinking about, do other kids think about thinking about what they're thinking about? And being this, like, I always felt weird. I always felt like an outsider. I always felt different. So it was really that, like, then when I found the weights, I was like, oh shit, when I do this, nothing else matters. Like, when I was lifting heavy, or I was doing something that was, like, very hard, it was easy, because every other time outside of that, my mind is constantly running about, like, what am I going to do with my life? Who am I going to become? I don't want to die young. Am I going to kill myself? All these things I would think about, because, like, my dad did that. Am I going to do that? Am I going to grow up and is that going to happen to me? And all these things. And, like, fuck, dude. Shit. Why is it always so hard?
Good, man.
Fuck.
Yeah, man.
So, fuck. Shit. So, fuck. Weightlifting became like just an escape.
Yeah. It's a place where we're allowed to grow. You're allowed to be around people that are working really hard, and I think it's a really positive place for people to grow up, because everyone in here is on the grind, and we're allowed to express ourselves in a way where you're not really faced with the judgment, and you're allowed to kind of grow and fail and be around people that understand what it's like to fail a lot.
And this is it. And I want to talk about this, because throughout my life and throughout my weightlifting career, it was in the moments where, like, it's really hard, everything disappeared. And my thoughts disappeared. I wasn't thinking about this. I wasn't thinking about death. I wasn't thinking about my dad. I wasn't thinking about why did this happen to me. I wasn't thinking about anything. Like, am I not worth it? Am I not good enough? It was just everything disappeared. And the best part beyond that, after that, is exactly what you just said, the people, which is why I tried to mention that in the beginning, because I'm where I'm at because of the people in my life, not just what I did. Without the people in my life, I wouldn't be where I'm at. For example, this gym, I cannot run without Brandon, without Mason. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't try to do it. There's, like, my brain doesn't work that way. My brain works way differently. I'm better at, like, maybe doing this and communicating, but, like, some organizational shit I suck at. So the reason why I'm telling you that is I had people in my life who were almost like mentor, like father figures. And that meant so much to me, because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So when I would train, I would always find myself in a gym. I was in there forever. So then the older guys would always be like, would see how hard I was training. They'd be like, well, come work out with me. So now I would always get those, like, those mentor type figures that would, like, we'd be training. They would talk about life stuff. And they were obviously, you know, one of my first weightlifting partners, Chad Nahegan, actually. I just want to say his name because I got a lot of love for that guy. Like, throughout, you know, we're training chest or we're training whatever, they would stop and they would talk about their life and what they've been through. And I just remember how much that meant to me, because, like, I didn't have that type of interaction with just my mom. I have a stepdad, but it was a very different relationship.
Yeah.
It was a very like disconnected relationship. But I love my stepdad. If he ever hears this, I would say I love you, Dave. But it was much different. It wasn't fatherly, you know. It was a little more disconnected. But again, all love to Dave. I just hope he knows that no matter what. Because as I got older, I started to develop a better relationship with him. But when I was young, it was still kind of like, you're not my dad, like, you know. There was that disconnect. But I had people in the gym outside who would just help me, like, and would talk about what they're going through in their life and what they think about this and what they think about that, and it gave me so much insight. So I think as I've grown, as I've gotten older, like, that's all I want to do is give back that fatherly figure or that fatherly advice, because it was what I didn't have, and it was what I was like always looking for, always searching for. And throughout, like I went to this past weekend to the Arnold Expo, and like there's probably like 4 or 5 guys who told me exactly that. Like, you're like a father to me. I grew up without a father. Right? My dad didn't kill himself, but they left when I was this age, and they're gone, and I haven't talked to them for 10 years. And having that is like the most fulfilling thing in the world. And that's like for sure the biggest thing that motivates me right now. I know I'm kind of getting to like a different maybe, but that's for sure what it is, man. For me, it was just I want to give back what I had always been searching for.
Give people a home.
Yeah, and make people feel good, man. Because like you go to gyms and it's just like, oh, the strong guys and maybe the people who do this or do that, and they like people are separate, and it's like we're doing this over here. You want to create a place where it's just like, no, we're all in this shit together. Like, we're all fucking humans. Like, I don't give a fuck what gym it is, if CrossFit, if it's this, is that. Like, respect someone else's grind, someone else's hustle. Like, it's just they're in different shoes. They walked a different path. Because people always tend to be like, oh, you do that, you do CrossFit, I'm better than you. Like, I make a lot of jokes about CrossFit and shit, but at the end of the day, like, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with any of this stuff that people do. It's just everyone always tends to be like, what I'm doing is better than what you're doing. And it's like, no, it's not. It's all fucking perspective, and it's an opinion. It doesn't even matter. And people get so caught up in trying to, like, make other people feel better or worse about themselves. And you should always just be like, why make someone feel worse and you can just make them feel better? And, like, I just always try to side towards that. I've always tried to be like, well, this is, like, that's what I want. Then that's what everyone else wants. People just want to feel good. They want to feel special. They want to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted.
Are you especially welcoming to like the teenagers that come in here? You know, they're training for high school sports, to like to oversee them, to be a mentor or father figure to them, to like ask them how they're doing as a person, not just like how their training's going, that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, man. Like in here, I would say we have a few people that it's more than just this. Like, it's always been more than just this for me with people. Mm-hmm. Like, because I'll try and talk to someone about what they're doing. Because the most important thing about anything, about someone asks me, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Is like, why? And you talk to people because they always ask about motivation and, like, what keeps you on track and how do you break through plateaus and, like, all these things. It's like, it never really comes down to this. It always comes down to this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I'm thinking about mine, and I think about, in your heart, and these things that matter, that, like, knowing enough, and then knowing enough in your heart that, like, you can do it and it's possible. But it takes, like, training. Yeah, you got to train, you got to get better. But, like, can you guys think about this? The perfect example of this is when you go to hit a PR. You could train, you do all these things, but it doesn't, like, all that tends to just disappear. And it's like, okay, how set mentally and how much in your heart do you feel you can do this without any doubt? And that's when the magic happens. Like, when I remember when I did Olympic weightlifting, and I would do I competed once, I did a platform, and, like, it's like the world just disappeared. And it was like I was in, like, autopilot, and I was almost like I was looking at myself doing what I was doing. And it was like I had trained so long to do it. It was more of that moment when I came to the platform was like everything just, like, went quiet, went silent, and I almost felt like I was watching it. Because, like, I trained, I did everything I needed to do, but only before that moment, the only thing I really needed to do was believe in myself. And that's the thing I really try and talk to you. You talk about kids who come in here, is like everyone is always so like, I want to do this, and I want to be that, and I want to do YouTube, I want to do social media. And everyone gets so caught up in, like, the act of, like, oh, well, I got to post, and I got to do these, and I got to work out. But people forget about, like, why the fuck are you doing it?
Yeah.
Because at some point, all this other shit doesn't matter. Like, at some point, everything I've done is cool. Viral shit, jumping out of pools, doing all this crazy shit, it's cool. But that's never what's kept people around and to be a part of what I'm doing. Because it's more, like, people will tell me, I'll tip like hundreds of people in person. It's never like, oh, man, you did some viral shit that's really cool. Like, that's why I really fuck with you. They're like, oh, you did some viral shit, and then I saw some of your videos, and I watched this video about life, and you changed my perspective. Or I saw this, and then I was thinking about killing myself, and then I didn't. And, like, those are the things, like, I'll read those messages at night and cry, but those are the things that people come to talk to me about. And I think those are the things that people support, like continue to support me.
Yeah.
Because all this shit is just an act, and all this shit is just things people do. But all of this is like, it's a physical thing that you see someone doing, but they're not doing it just because they want to just do this. There's something deeper. And people forget that it's like, there's a why. It's like, why is that guy doing what he's doing? Why does he think that's important? Because it never has to do with what he's doing. It never has to do with like, oh, I just want to get, people say, I just want to get stronger. Yeah. I want to get bigger. You gotta go 10 steps deeper than that every fucking time, and people forget that.
Yeah.
People keep surface level. And everyone has this. It's things like you either don't like about yourself, you got insecurities, things that are inside of you that fuck with you every day. And people are so afraid to like dive into that shit because you look weak or you cry. Like, but who gives a fuck? Like, it makes you who you are.
Yep.
And fuck. And I just want to make a point that no matter who the fuck you are, no matter what the fuck you're doing, weightlifting, CrossFit, I don't care. There's something deeper that drives you to do that. And every successful person who's super successful at it, it's not just the act. It's not just what they're doing. There's a reason why deeper. And I'm just saying this to everyone listening. Like, whatever the fuck you're doing, you want to be successful at it. Like, I'm sure you guys have a reason, and you guys are successful at doing this podcast because something really matters to you. You feel like you really want to share something about fitness, about whatever it is. And anyone who has success, there's something that really matters to them because as you go along life, shit happens. You get fucked up. You get setbacks. And then that's the moments when people say, fuck it and quit because they forget to connect with, like, why they're really doing it. Like, but if you connect with why you're really doing something, like, deeper than I want to be strong, I want to be big. Like, maybe you want to be strong because in the fucking 6th grade, you got bullied. People treated you like shit. You felt like shit. Like, you didn't have a father figure or something. And then you're like, I don't want to feel like this. And then you get older, and then you see, like, oh, that guy's stronger or that guy's taller. And then you're like, you feel insecure about your height or you feel insecure about something. And you're like, I just want to be better. And then, so you're like, oh, you found weightlifting. And then you're like, oh, I'm doing this because I want to be strong. No, you want to do it because you got bullied in the 6th grade and you felt like shit about yourself. And that's affected the rest of your fucking life. And then people tend to just be like, oh, I don't want to deal. And I've done that. They got push it down. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this long enough that you close it off and it becomes something that is still there in your subconscious, but you close it off from your conscious, but it still affects everything you do. And people don't even realize it. Like, you need to dig inside yourself, look deep inside yourself and like figure out why the fuck you're doing what you're doing. And then once you unlock that, then you have so much power because it's something that really affected you. And I just think, like, I wish more people would like dive inside themselves. Because, like, people always talk about success and all this stuff, and they just think of, like, oh, it's an act. I need to do this and do this good. Yeah. Yes, that's true, but to keep you going on that path when there's setbacks, when there's things that fuck you up, things that throw you off track, it's being connected with that deeper emotion.